either or. Right now it's a very close race. I myself have been monitoring the U.S. elections since I first arrived there in 1968 and saw the arrival of Richard Nixon against Humphrey. It was also a very close fight. We did not know the result until the noon the next day. So that was also exciting. So let me introduce, I don't know, how to call you Betsy? Or
Yes, Betsy.
Introduce Betsy. I'm Dean. We forget about title. She's an award-winning journalist. Those of you who have lived in the United States will know the CBS program and the NBC program, which is an award-winning program, Meet the Press. Mr. Lee Kuan Yew appeared and so many other well-known personalities. You know, her CV, you guys know. She runs her own business. In that sense, she's an entrepreneur. I want to wish you a warm welcome to Cambodia. And also, Engpo, I thank the embassy for making it all possible. And we hope we'll be working more with you. So she will do the presentation. Then after that, no holds barred discussion. Don't be afraid. Ask all the questions because I intend to do so also. Because I put some money on one candidate. And I hope she will win. And I think she will win.
So I know who you put it.
Yeah, so you better join me, man. But the rates are lower, you know, because the odds are in your favor. One day, thanks for all the arrangements. Okay, my colleague, young colleague. He is quite unique. He's educated in Thailand and also Indonesia. As a double master. So the whole team of guys are pretty smart guys. You know? Never underestimate Cambodia. They are very beautiful people too. Okay, Betsy, over to you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you for having me here. So nice to see you all. Oh, yeah, great. Thank you all for being here, and I'm delighted to be here today to speak to you. This is my first time in Cambodia. I've been here, this is my 4th day now, and I've had a really great time. I was able to talk to some students yesterday, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you all today about the U.S. elections, 48 days to go. I just want to see a show of hands to see how many of you have been following the election closely, following all the news. Yeah? You know, we have the 2 candidates running, of course, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, right? So Donald Trump is the Republican nominee, and Hillary Clinton is the Democratic nominee. And then we also have 2 other, we call third-party candidates that are running, who aren't anywhere near where the 2 major party candidates are in the polls. And so I just wanted to share with you a little bit of where the race stands right now and talk to you about a couple of things that will be coming up in the next month or 2. Just so as you continue to follow the elections, you'll know what to look for. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the Electoral College, which is essentially how we pick our president. It's a little complicated even for people in the United States to understand, so you will know more at the end of this than a lot of people know in the United States. So right now the race is very close. There was a new poll out this morning by the news organization I used to work for, NBC News, that has Hillary Clinton up by a few points, which is new because over the last week, most of the polls showed the race within only about 1 or 2 points difference. So there has been some speculation that maybe she has recovered a little bit from a downturn that she had in her campaign a week or 2 ago, and that maybe she's coming back a little bit. But the thing about U.S. politics is it changes on a dime. So you never know really what's going to happen. But one thing we do know from the polls are that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are the 2 most disliked nominees that we've ever had running for president in the United States. Which is pretty remarkable because a lot of people say, if no one likes them, how do they get to be nominees of the party? That's probably a whole nother discussion, but this is who we have. a lot of people tell public opinion pollsters that their vote that they're going to cast in November is actually going to be a vote against another candidate. So people will vote for Hillary Clinton because they do not like Donald Trump, and vice versa. Which sounds very strange, right? Because when you think of elections, you think of people getting excited for their candidate. And right now, in the United States, the number of people that are very excited to vote for a candidate is probably at its lowest level in a very long time in the United States. Both of them have very high, what we call negatives. People that say have a negative opinion. Hillary Clinton's right now, her negative rating is at 55%, and Trump's is at 57%. So when you're dealing with two candidates that no one likes, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. There's a couple of upcoming events that you should look out for. The most obvious is the first presidential debate that is going to be held on the 26th of September, which will air here on the morning of the 27th. How many of you all are going to be watching that or have an interest in watching it? Yeah? Well, I think probably, let's see, the highest rated Super Bowl in the United States, I think gets about 118 million viewers in the United States. And there's speculation that the number of Americans watching that first presidential debate could be that high, which is pretty remarkable. That would be the highest rated television U.S. presidential debate ever. So I think people, not only in the United States, but really around the world, are going to be watching that debate. One of the things I wanted that each of the candidates has to worry about is what their people's impressions of them are. And there was another interesting poll that came out by Gallup that asked people, what word would you associate with either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump? So I want to ask you all, if a couple of you, if you could raise your hands, and when I say Donald Trump, tell me what word, one word comes to mind when I say Donald Trump. Anybody? Just one word. Yeah. The first word you think of when you think of Donald Trump.
I think Donald Trump might be possibly
Hard to believe?
Yes.
Okay.
To win the election because the reason that home-based, it means that they think about national, that's like a job opportunity, about raising
Right.
income, lower level, like that.
Okay.
And don't think too much about international relations, but just home book and then international after.
Okay.
If
Anybody
the people
else?
interested on
Have-
that topic, it will
Yeah.
be vote for Trump.
Anybody have a word? One word?
Do you mind me using two?
Sure.
A bully and a lie.
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, in the back over here.
I would say horrible.
Horrible. Okay. Anyone else?
Unpredictable.
Unpredictable. That's a good one. Anybody else? Okay. What about when I say Hillary Clinton? What do you say? What do you think of? Anybody? You have to think of something.
She's calm.
What? Calm?
Yeah,
Okay.
like aggressive.
Okay.
And Trump is about aggressive.
Anyone else?
She's smooth. and suave.
Smooth. Okay.
Yeah.
Cooperative. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah.
Ultra conservative,
Ultra conservative. Okay.
representing the establishment.
Okay. Anyone else?
I have one word.
Yes.
She's a champion of Obama's legacy.
Yes. Yes.
Policy.
Well, I'm going to just read you the top 5 words that Americans said about each of these candidates, just to show you what people are thinking in the United States right now. Some of it is the same as you're thinking, but some of it's a little bit different. When I say Hillary Clinton, the first word that people said the word that people said the most was email.
Email.
Okay. We've all been following the email scandal. Okay. The second most popular word was lie or liar. Okay, this is Hillary Clinton. Third most popular word was foundation, because of the Clinton Foundation that's been in the news. The next word was scandal, and then the next word was pneumonia, because we all know she got sick last week, right?
Flu.
Right. Now, Donald Trump, most popular word for him was immigration, then Mexico, then Obama, I think probably because of the birther issue, then campaign, and then president. Okay? So there's a big difference right now between those two candidates on words, right? Hillary Clinton's are very negative, aren't they? Email, liar, scandal, very negative. But Trump's words aren't really negative. They're just kind of matter of fact, things that he stands for, immigration, Mexico. So this is just another example that even though Donald Trump has a lot of negative things associated with him, it doesn't seem to stick in the minds of a lot of voters. So we call him the Teflon candidate. I don't know if you all know what the word Teflon means, but if you have a skillet that's coated with a special,
Very smooth.
yes, a special ingredient, and you try to do an egg on it, it doesn't stick, right? So nothing sticks to him. So he's the Teflon candidate. So that's a problem for Hillary Clinton, because she has these high negatives and she's had these issues that have stuck to her, especially this email story. So Donald Trump was asked the other day in an interview about the debates and what he was going to focus on, and what do you think the first thing he said was? Email issue. So he's not going to let this issue go either. So that will come up for sure in the debate. Another thing to take into consideration when you're thinking about the races is that voting is, the date of the election is November 8th, which is the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. Every 4 years it's the same. First Tuesday after the first Monday. But over the last couple of election cycles, and now this happens more and more, people are able to do what we call early voting. So people are able to, starting next week in some states, they are able to go to a polling place, and it's not going to be anywhere close to the number of polling places that will be open on election day, but they can go to a polling place in their city and cast a ballot. Some states also have provisions for people to mail in a ballot. So this is one thing that is actually going to help Hillary Clinton a lot, with more and more states allowing this early voting. Why? Because she is very organized in her campaign. She has a lot of staff all around the United States in these battleground states that are very important, and we'll talk more about those in a few minutes. Donald Trump is approaching his campaigning in a much different way. He doesn't have a lot of staff doing things. He likes to hold these big rallies. He likes to get media, we call free media coverage, because the news networks air his speeches. And so they have two different ways that they're running the campaign. So Hillary Clinton now has 6 weeks in some of these states that have early voting to what we call get out the vote, to get her people to go to the polls and vote for her. In the presidential campaign, if you're running a presidential campaign, you think of voters in 3 different buckets. The first one are your loyal, predictable base voters. Think of it like your friends and family. No matter what, if they're a Republican, they are going to vote Republican. Or if they're a Democrat, they're going to vote Democrat. No matter who is running on that ticket, they are reliable base voters. The second group we call the GOTV voters, get out the vote voters. These are voters that are usually very loyal to a particular party, but they need a little extra push to actually go and vote. They need someone to call them up. They need a piece of mail that says, don't forget to vote, please come vote for Hillary Clinton. They need to be sort of nudged to get to the polls. And so Hillary Clinton is paying a lot of attention to those voters. And then the third group of voters are what we call the persuadable voters, or the swing voters. They vote back and forth from election to election, either Democrat, Independent, or Republican. So these are the voters that campaigns try to sway one way or the other. So most of those voters are registered independent. So in most states in the U.S., you can register to vote either as a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent. And these voters are independent voters, and they can be swayed. Donald Trump is trying to appeal to a lot of those swing voters. He's changing a lot of his messaging, some of the support that he's getting. His messaging is toned toward getting some groups of Democrats, to support him. So it'll be very interesting to see if he's able to get a lot of those independent voters. So that will be something to look for in the next couple of weeks, of how many people in the United States are doing this early voting. And again, as I know, it's a different system here. You all don't have that. And it's something that wasn't very common in the United States many years ago, but now is getting more and more common. Another thing that can affect elections, and sometimes there's a word for this, the October surprise, something that happens that we don't know about. In this case, I think this issue of terrorism that we've had in the United States over the last couple of days, it's come back again with the bombings that we had in New York. This plays directly to Donald Trump's messaging, right? Building a wall, keeping people out of the United States. So he is really, the issue of terrorism is an issue that he gets a lot of support from. And Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, this issue is very difficult for her. And it's difficult because she's sort of stuck in the middle on the issue. She can't really criticize President Obama and his administration and his policies on terrorism. Why? Well, she was part of it. She was the Secretary of State for Barack Obama. So she can't criticize him. And on the other side, she can't necessarily say that what she's done and what the administration has done has worked. Why? Because we keep having these terrorism issues. So she's stuck in the middle on that issue, and it's not an issue that is going to be favorable for her. So the more that the issue of terrorism is in the news in the United States, the more advantageous that is going to be for Donald Trump. So I wanted to try to explain to you a little bit about the Electoral College. You all heard of the Electoral College? Anybody? Sounds like a place, right? Like a college, like a university, except it's not. It's a concept, and it's actually how we in the United States pick our president. And it's a little complicated, so I want to try to explain it to you this way. Each state, there's 50 states in the U.S., each state has what's called electoral votes. And the people, when you go and cast your ballot, you're actually voting for an elector or a representative who, after the election, is going to cast an official ballot for that state, okay? So all of this is divided on the proportionality of population in a state. So a small state, like Rhode Island or Maryland, a small state in population will only have a smaller amount of electoral votes because it's based on population. The way that you get the number is the number of members in Congress plus 2 for the number of senators, okay? So a big state like California is going to have a lot of electoral votes. So the winner of the election is the person that when you look at the map of the states, there's 538 electoral votes. So the winner has to get 270 electoral votes to be president.
You want to go to the map?
Yeah, I'll go to the map in just one second. Well, I'll put the map up just to show you.
Just want to make sure they understand the electoral college.
Yeah, yeah.
Your electoral college, យល់ដែរឬក៏ចង់ខ្ញុំនិយាយបញ្ចូលជាភាសាខ្មែរបន្តិច Okay they need some explanation in Khmer probably I can
Okay, okay, good.
to make sure they understand
Okay, good.
ពាក្យថា electoral college ហ្នឹងគឺឧទាហរណ៍ថាចេះនៅរដ្ឋ California មួយមាន55 electoral college អានេះគេគិតយ៉ាងម៉េចគេគិតគេយកចំពោះនៅ California មានចំនួនប្រជាពលរដ្ឋអាមេរិកនៅច្រើនអញ្ចឹងភាគរយនិយាយដូចកៅអីនៅតាមមណ្ឌលយើងនៅខេត្តយើងអញ្ចឹងដូចនៅកំពង់ចាមមាន18អញ្ចឹងគេដោយសារតែកំពង់ចាមមានចំនួនប្រជាពលរដ្ឋច្រើនអញ្ចឹងមានកៅអី18អញ្ចឹងគេនៅ California នេះគឺមាន electoral college 53ដោយសារថាមានចំនួនសមាជិកសភាអាមេរិកនៅនោះ53នាក់ហើយថែម2នាក់ទៀតគឺថែមសមាជិកព្រឹទ្ធសភាអញ្ចឹងនៅក្នុងអាមេរិកនៅរដ្ឋក្នុងទូទាំងអាមេរិកទាំងមូលហ្នឹងយ៉ាងតិចណាស់ក៏មាន electoral college ហ្នឹង3នាក់ដែររដ្ឋដែលមានប្រជាពលរដ្ឋតិចជាងគេដូចជា Alaska អានឹងចំនួនសភាចំនួនកៅអីសភាមាន1បូកនឹងសភាព្រឹទ្ធសភា2នាក់ទៀត3តើណាដោយសារថានៅរដ្ឋអាមេរិកទាំង50ហ្នឹងគឺចំនួនសភាព្រឹទ្ធសភា2គ្រប់រដ្ឋហើយសមាជិករដ្ឋសភានិងសភាជាន់ទាបហ្នឹងគឺគេគិតទៅតាមចំនួនប្រជាពលរដ្ឋដែលនៅតាមរដ្ឋនីមួយៗអញ្ចឹងគេយកចំនួនព្រឹទ្ធសភាបូកនឹងចំនួនកៅអីរដ្ឋសភាតាមរដ្ឋនីមួយៗនេះអានឹងគេហៅថា electoral college អញ្ចឹងបានជានៅដូចជានៅ California មាន56នៅ Texas មាន34ដោយសារថាពលរដ្ឋនៅ Texas ច្រើនដែរដូចជាចំនួនសភាអាមេរិកមាន32នាក់អញ្ចឹងទៅបូកនឹងប្រសិទ្ធភាព2ទៀត34ចឹងតើណា Okay
Thank you, Kev. So here's the map of the United States. And it's coded by color to show you where currently the polls have the candidates. So if you look at the map of the United States, those states that are colored in dark blue, those are states right now where I talked about the base supporters. Those are states that are solidly right now for Hillary Clinton. That's not going to change. Okay? The states that are in light blue, those are states where she is leading somewhat comfortably in the polls. Okay? Those light blue states. The states that are beige or brown, those are the toss-up states. Those are states where polls show a very, very close race between the two. And that's where the candidates are spending all of their time right now campaigning. In Florida, down at the bottom, Georgia, North Carolina, Ohio, Iowa, IA, Nevada, and Arizona. Candidates are spending a lot of their time. The states that are sort of a light red or pink, those are states that Trump is right now ahead in the polls. And in the states that are dark red, those are states that he is those are solid Republican states. Okay? So if you look at that right now, you can see that if you add up the states that Hillary Clinton is ahead either by a lot or comfortably, she already has 272 electoral votes right there. So this looks pretty good for her. Okay? Whereas Donald Trump, if you add up the states that he's ahead and the states that he's likely going to win, that is 163 electoral votes. Now, the important thing about the Electoral College is that you can actually win the presidential election by winning the Electoral College and actually lose the popular vote in the United States. Okay? It's set up so that each state is a compromise, so that each state has a different weight depending on their population. So if you...
Excuse me, if you want me asking, has that ever happened?
Yes, that happened in 2000, where President Bush received more than 270 electoral votes, and Al Gore won the total popular vote in the United States. And I'm going to just give you an example to think about that you can understand how that happens. Let's pretend that the United States is only made up of 3 states, okay? Just for this example. Think about 3 states in the United States. And let's say that each of those states has 100 people living in their states, okay? So we have 300 people in the United States. We have 100 people in each state. Each state has electoral votes that are worth the same, 3, let's say, because they have 2 members of Congress and 1 member of the Senate, just for this example. So they have 3 electoral votes for each state, so 9 electoral votes total, right? Okay, so let's say we have our election, and in state A, let's say Hillary Clinton wins 60 votes, and Donald Trump wins 40 votes, okay? In state B, let's say that Hillary Clinton wins, again, 60 votes, and Donald Trump wins 40 votes. But in state C, this is a very popular Trump state, Hillary Clinton only gets 10 votes, and Donald Trump in this state gets 90 votes, okay? So in this example, Hillary Clinton would have won that first state, right, 60 to 40, so she gets all 3 of those electoral votes. We call it winner take all. So as long as you win that state, even if it's by 1 point, 1 vote, you get all 3 of those electoral votes, okay? So Hillary Clinton won that first state, she has 3 electoral votes. Hillary Clinton won state B, right? 60 votes to 40 votes. Now she has 6 electoral votes. Donald Trump only won 1 state, okay? He has only 3 electoral votes. But if you add up Donald Trump's votes in all 3 of those states, so state A, he got 40, state B, he got 40, and state C, he got 90. So he has 170 people voted for him, and 130 people voted for Hillary Clinton. But Hillary Clinton would win. She would be the president. Does that make sense? Okay? So that's what the Electoral College is. So when you look at this map, and you look at all the red in there, you say, wow, that looks like Donald Trump is way ahead. But you have to look at the numbers that are on each of those states, because that tells you the number of electoral votes that each state has. Okay, so let me just give you an example of the way you say, I think Hillary Clinton in this race. Now, I didn't bring my crystal ball with me. I left that in Washington. But this is why I think, barring anything completely strange, I think she's going to actually win, because this map favors Hillary Clinton, okay? She starts with a big advantage, okay? This is a map, let's see, I'm confused. Yes, okay. This is a map that shows you over the last 6 elections, okay, since 1992, we have an election every 4 years. Those states that are in blue voted for the Democrat, Hillary Clinton's party, every single election, okay? They are her base. Those are friends and family. They are going to vote for the Democrat no matter what, those states, okay? And the red states that you see are good. Okay, great. Those red states right there are Trump's states. Those are all Republican states. They have voted for the Republican nominee every single election since 1992. Okay? So if you add up all those blue numbers there, see, California, Oregon, Washington, Minnesota, if you add up all of these, and these squares right here are these little tiny, tiny states. They're too small to put the numbers there, so that's why they're in the squares, okay? But if you add up all those numbers, you get 242, okay? If you add up all of these red numbers, okay, you get 102. And how many did I say that she needs to win? 270. She only needs 28 more electoral votes. And look at all these states that are up for grabs, okay? She just needs to win a couple of these states. In particular, if she wins the state of Florida, just one more state, it has 29 electoral votes. What happens? She wins 271, okay? So all she needs to do right now is she needs to hold all of these very traditional blue states that should not be a problem for her, and win that state of Florida, and then she won. We call this the Great Blue Wall. It's because it's very hard to break through that, okay? let's say she doesn't win Florida. Even if she doesn't win Florida, let's say she picks up Virginia and Ohio. Virginia has 13 electoral votes, Ohio has 18. What does she have? 273. So her path to the presidency right now is pretty solid. I'll just give you a couple more examples here. This is the 2012 election result. This was the last election that we had in the United States, okay? So a lot of the demographics haven't changed that much. This is the last election cycle. President Obama got 332, and Mitt Romney got 206 in that election, okay? So in 2016, if all of these states voted the exact same way, Trump would lose, okay? He needs to change some of these blue states. He needs to change to red. So let's say that he changed a couple of big ones here, okay? Let's say he changed Florida, he changed Ohio, he changed Iowa, and he changed Nevada. He still is below the number, okay? She still wins. So it's very difficult. Now, it's not a slam dunk, nothing ever is. So if you're working for the Donald Trump campaign, you're looking at these maps, you say, okay, well, how can he win? So there's a couple of realistic ways that he can win. They're not probable, and they're not out of the possibility. So I just want to show you how he can win. So we're back to that original map I showed you earlier about all of the states that since 1992 have voted for a particular party. The blue ones have all voted Democrat, and the red ones have all voted Republican. Okay, that's that original map that shows you that she only needs 28 more electoral votes to get to 270. Well, let's just say that Donald Trump is able to switch out one of those states. Then there's one state in particular that he may be able to do that. He's spending a lot of time there, and the makeup of the state could appeal to him. That is Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania has 20 electoral votes. So if he was able to flip, and when I say flip, I mean take a state that has voted Democratic every election for the last 6 elections and have it vote Republican, if he was able to do that, then Hillary Clinton doesn't need 28 more, she needs 48 more. And that's a little harder for her, okay? So that's one way. Then all he needs to do is he needs to pick up a couple of other states. But having that Pennsylvania, because it has 20 electoral votes, would be a big deal for him. So if we go back to the 2012 election, let's say we give him all of these red states here. Let's say everybody's going to vote for a Republican that voted for the Republican last time, and everybody that voted for Barack Obama is going to vote for Hillary Clinton, okay? And let's say he was able to flip some of those states, and these are all battleground states right now. He could pick up Florida, he could pick up Virginia, Ohio, and Nevada over here, and then he would get to 278, okay? So that's giving him all of the states that Mitt Romney had won in 2012. And taking away from that a couple of states that Obama won and putting them back to him. So that's why you're going to see Donald Trump campaigning in these states a lot, because the math adds up for him. Now I'll give you one more scenario to end with here. And I'm picking these 4 states as potential states that Donald Trump can flip. So Florida, Ohio, Nevada, and then a little state up here of New Hampshire. And then look at what the electoral vote is. Equal. What happens? Anybody know? Coin flip? Start over? What do you think? No? 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 It goes to the House of Representatives, okay? But, and here's the but, in the House of Representatives in that case, each state, okay, each of the 50 states would only get 1 vote. So the members of Congress that represent each state, and that number is essentially the number on this map minus 2, because the number of electoral votes is the number of members of Congress plus 2 U.S. senators. Okay, so Florida would have 27 members of Congress, and they would vote. And they would decide where Florida would go. Would Florida vote for Trump, or would Florida vote for Hillary Clinton? Okay? That means a little state like Idaho up here, which is actually big in property but little in population, would have the same influence over the election that a big state like California has. Okay? So if each of the states was able to be equally weighted and put in one vote, by looking at this map here in the 2012 election results, what candidate do you think would win there? What color is more prevalent on that map?
Red.
Red. Donald Trump. Okay? So if the election went to the House of Representatives and each state was worth exactly one vote, Donald Trump would win that vote. And he would be president. Okay? Does everybody understand? I know it's a little complicated, and like I said, most people that actually live in the United States and vote don't understand this. So you're one step ahead of them if you do. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to let you guys ask any questions you want about the election, and then I am happy to try to answer for you.
It would appear to me that issues don't matter.
Issues. This has been an issue-less campaign. Very much based on personality, this campaign, because we've got 2 candidates with one with a very big personality. Yes.
There's a question over there.
Yeah.
In Cambodia, the people vote directly for the Prime Minister as a direct democracy. You explained that the people in America vote for a popularity contest in America, and the electoral college vote for the president. Is America a democracy then?
Yes, America is a democracy because the people have representatives that vote for them, and they are voting. It's not necessarily a popularity contest. People vote. You know, there's millions of people in the United States. You have to ask each one on why they vote. Some people vote for a political party because they believe in what the party stands for. Other people just vote on the candidate that they trust the most. And that's why it's a difficult election for Hillary Clinton right now, because a lot of people don't like her, a lot of people don't trust her.
One thing I'm not clear about, I hope you can explain.
Sure.
If you say it's the electoral colleges that decide, it's that vote that is decided, why have a popular election for the president if that doesn't count?
Well, because the popular vote determines how the electors vote. Okay, so the popular vote in the state, if a candidate wins the state of Texas, then Texas is going to vote. If Trump wins Texas, Texas is going to vote for Trump. So the electors are bound by the vote in that state. It's just counted as an entity. It's counted as the state. So as opposed to adding up all of the votes, all of the votes in the country, it's done state by state. But the state vote is based on the actual votes in the state. Yeah.
Has the issue of gender, the fact that we're having the first woman president, any influence on the outcome?
Not as much as I thought it would, honestly. I thought it would have more of an impact. And I thought that she would have been able to mobilize a lot more young women that she's not been able to do. And that's been surprising to me. During the primaries, she had an opponent, Bernie Sanders, who actually was able to mobilize a lot of youth and get a lot of support behind him, and almost defeated her in the primary because of the youth vote, including young women. And there's been a lot of discussion in the United States about why, especially among younger women, that they don't seem to, gender doesn't seem to matter to them. And it could be that women of a younger generation in the United States almost take for granted, you know, women and equality issues that they don't have to struggle with as much anymore because so many things have changed in the United States. Whereas older women remember more of a time when women didn't have as much equality and therefore are more excited about, looking forward to the possibility of having a woman. Whereas some younger women, it's not really a factor to them.
But the presence of Sleep Willie in the White House, is that the chances?
Would that affect people's voting for her?
Yeah.
I think for some people it does.
Sleep Willie.
Yeah, I think for some people it does, and for other people, they love Bill Clinton, and he's a bonus. It just, you know, people have their own opinions. It depends on who you talk to. But there are people that will tell you that they don't want Bill Clinton back in the White House, that the Clintons bring scandal along with them everywhere they go, and then there's other people that thought he did a great job for the country, and that it would be wonderful to have him back in the White House. Just different opinions.
I'm sorry to ask several questions.
Yeah, please.
I don't want to dominate this, but I'm very curious, and I'd like your insight. This question is not so much about the candidates themselves. It's a question more about the U.S. electorate. And let me lead into it this way. Something like 61% of what Trump has said has been proved to be false, factually inaccurate. And Trump will actually keep repeating the factual inaccuracies, even though they've been proved wrong. The American electorate, or the TV audience, doesn't seem to care about this. So what does this say about the American people not caring about factual accuracy?
Well, you just asked the $65 million question because I really don't have an answer. I don't understand it myself. Coming from, you know, covering so many elections over the years, and my role as producing a television show whose main mission was holding candidates accountable and actually, you know, making sure that candidates were saying truthful things in interviews. It's shocking to me that people don't seem to care about that as much. And it's shocking to me that, like I said, the Teflon candidate, that none of this seems to stick to him. I just remember during the primaries, you know, when the first couple of incidents had happened, he, you know, insulted John McCain, a former, you know, war hero. He made fun of somebody with a disability who was a reporter. I mean, he did all of these things, and I kept thinking, well, this is it. He's out. He's out of the race. All of a sudden, he's back up in the polls. I mean, nothing sticks to him. So my only takeaway is that people are so desperate for solutions and to buy into his general rhetoric about making America great again, that trumps, to put a play on words, all of the other stuff about it.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Thank you for your
Thank you.
presence this morning. And as Cambodian, I love all Americans. I love American citizens. I have observed and I'm interested in politics and election
Right?
for 29 years as U.S. election, even U.S. election. But recently, I'm not. Because I know that many, as your introduction to the Facebook, I mean, with Margaret or whatever, said about refugee.
About
And
what?
refugee, those who said Obama,
Oh, refugees.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
welcome many refugees, blah,
Yes,
blah,
yes,
blah,
yes.
blah, 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 okay? I know that refugees, they're looking for three things, as far as I know. One, peace. Second, freedom.
Mhm.
And third, opportunities.
Mhm.
They're looking for this. But to you, I'm not, it doesn't matter you can answer it or not. You as American and as executive, TV executive, president of your company. What is your reaction to U.S. government recently to the world, especially to Asia?
What is what? I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question.
Asia.
Yeah, to Asia, to the world. What is, U.S. government reaction to the world, especially to Asia?
What is the U.S. government
Yeah.
reaction?
As American, only your idea, okay?
Well, I don't, as a journalist, I mean, I'm here to answer your questions about the election, but I'm really not here to give my personal opinion on policy matters. So I'm going to just have to politely take a pass on my personal opinion on various policy. And I don't know, because I am still a journalist, I try to be very careful about weighing in on particular policy matters. And I don't know if you all have the same sort of thinking in your media here, but in the United States, some journalists, and this is, again, a whole other debate, really try to kind of maintain that nonpartisan aspect publicly. In fact, speaking about whether to vote, my husband is also a journalist. He writes for the New York Times and covers politics, and we get into disagreement about whether we should even vote. He doesn't believe as a journalist that he should vote. He thinks that it's not right, that he doesn't want to have kind of a sway or be pulling for a candidate or not, and that he shouldn't even cast a ballot. And I, on the other hand, think that, I pay taxes, I'm a citizen, people, women fought for the right to vote. I feel like it is my obligation to vote, although I don't talk about who I vote for. I don't even tell my daughter who I vote for, but I do vote. So that's just to share with you kind of my thinking on that matter.
So let me play the Asian role. I'm an Asian. Grew up during the period of the Cold War, who has witnessed a lot of instability. Asia, in America. Certainly, after 77 years, I've seen it all. I've seen the Japanese come to my country and what they did to us. I saw the communists did in the insurgency in my country. I saw the British and how they ran the country. So I fear very much that with the South China Sea issue out here and the emergence of China, China was inward looking at the time and the map, but today it's more open, it's more economically getting more powerful. So I feel that there is instability in Southeast Asia in the air. And someone who takes a very aggressive, dominant, militaristic rule here is not good. Certainly for my country and for the region here.
Well, the only thing I can tell you in that regard, in terms of the Donald Trump presidency, that there is, and I think a lot of people in the United States feel this way too, that are not supportive of him and think about, oh my goodness, what's going to happen if he is the president. In the United States, we do have a system of government that has checks and balances against each other. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on where you sit, the president does not have unlimited power to conduct major foreign policy. That has to be signed off on, if you will, by the U.S. Congress. And I don't see right now, in terms of the people that are running for Congress and for the Senate and the current makeup, I don't see that a lot of the views that he espouses to at all be present in even the candidates or the current office holders in Congress. So there would be that check, if you will, on his ability to do a lot of things.
But looking at, go back to the time, the Gulf of Tonkin incident never really occurred. That's how LBJ use that counting resolution to really.
Well, LBJ was sort of a master politician in and of himself, and he got his way a lot with different things, and he was sort of an operator. I don't see a lot of similarities between Donald Trump's political positioning or political talents and that of LBJ.
Are you suggesting that at that time the system of checks and balances in America failed? That
Competitive partners in the world,
Yeah.
so that is my
Health. She had some incidences of bad health a couple of years ago. Just she fell and she had. So instead of being forthcoming with the American people and coming out and saying, you know, I've been diagnosed with pneumonia. My doctors have requested that I should take a couple of days off of the campaign trail. I'll see you all soon. Instead of doing that and opening her up to more criticism from him, right, because she's sensitive about it, she decided not to say anything about it. And for 2 days, she was campaigning and she had pneumonia. And what you all saw, and what everybody saw, was her kind of stumble that she had outside of the 9/11 ceremony, where she got more sick and she kind of lost her balance, and they had to take her out of the event. And it was revealed later that night that she did in fact have pneumonia. So the problem with that is that in politics, the worst thing that can happen is something that plays into an existing narrative that is already out there about somebody. So she already, and we talked about this earlier, had this narrative as being what? A liar, right? People already thought that about her. And so when she was not forthcoming and transparent about the pneumonia, people who already thought she was a liar thought so even more. And it was actually more damaging to her campaign, I think, than probably coming out when it happened and being transparent about it. But her inclination was to try to hide it and not subject herself to more criticisms or attacks of Donald Trump. And so either way, it was bad. Either way, it would have been bad for the campaign. But ultimately, and a lot of times, you know, we have an expression that the cover-up is sometimes worse than the crime, right? Right.
If we talk about his policy on immigration, India, it seems to be tough. And if you look at the original America, meaning that America is a heterogeneous nation, meaning that many people come from Europe, Latin America, and Asia. But if you look at Donald Trump's policy on immigration, it seems that now it seems to be inverted or backward policies or backward attitude against the human rights. So, as you are an American, how do you think of Donald Trump's policy on immigration?
Well, what you've said, I think, echoes the opinion that some people in the United States have. And you know, the thing about our democracy and our election campaigns is that people have different opinions on those issues. There are some people that do feel that we do not need to have sort of liberal immigration policies, that we should be more exclusive and not allow people in. And those are the people that Trump speaks to. And there are other people that have different opinions on the matter. Again, I'm not going to go through my own specific opinion, but that is, we talked about whether this is an issue-oriented campaign. I think there's a small handful of issues that have been discussed in the campaign, and immigration is certainly one of them. It's an issue that I think will come up in the debate, for sure, next week, so you should be looking at that. And it's an issue that Hillary Clinton has, tried to attack Donald Trump on as well. So in a campaign, like I said, it hasn't focused on a lot of issues. I'd say that immigration is one of the few that has been talked about a lot.
Okay, good morning. Actually, my question just the same, this idea about immigration policy, because we have observed the Donald Trump campaign, including terrorism.
and migratory policy because Donald Trump tried to, if he win the election, maybe policy change after he win, I'm not sure. But he tried to illegal immigrant from USA, and, yeah, illegal immigrant especially from immigrant and from rest of the world.
Donald Trump would adopt with dealing with other countries. You know, it's hard to even imagine the kind of people that he would surround himself with, who he would pick as Secretary of State, who would pick as Secretary of Defense. Those are all just wild cards. We just don't know. You know, Donald Trump has changed his opinion on countless issues in the past, back to talking about that nothing ever sticks to him. And so he's a wild card. And that's what makes him, in the minds of a lot of Americans, very scary to think about him as president.
Would the United States become more protective, aggressive, and racist?
Well, that's how he is. Yeah, so those are the sort of policies that he would try to put forth, for sure.
Yeah, let me make one. My contemporary Bernie Sanders is silent these days.
He is.
What happened?
I don't know.
Bernie and I were so excited with Bernie. Yeah?
Well, and then Bernie was supposed to help Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, but she never
He's
used
done
it.
one or two things, and that's it.
She never used it.
Yeah, there was not a lot of good blood between the two, I think, at the end. And then the campaign staffs never melded right, and yeah, he's not been out there for her as much as, you know, he probably should be, because he generates a lot of enthusiasm among young voters, and those are voters that she's going to need.
I think maybe we can take one more question.
Okay. That they really only play sort of a ceremonial role, because they actually will cast their vote in accordance with how the state has voted. So it's more of a ceremonial thing that happens in terms of the election. And what was your first question?
The first question is that why cannot
The other parties, yeah, sure, of course. So the American political system is that there are two major parties, Republican and Democrat, and then there are some other parties. There will be 4 major names on the ballot. There's someone from the Green Party and Libertarian Party. So there are other parties, but they do not have the support right now of the majority of people. And you know, one thing that is controversial, I will say, we're talking about the presidential debates. There is a commission that oversees the Commission on Presidential Debates. There's a bipartisan group former people involved in politics that oversee this commission, and they come up with the standards that you need to have in order to be a participant in debate. And so they set the threshold of what you need to be getting in the polls in order to be invited to the presidential debate. And they set that threshold at 15%, saying that a candidate has to be polling at a 15% average in order to be invited to the debate. Well, those two candidates, the other two names that are on the ballot, Jill Stein and Gary Johnson, they are only at about 5 or 6% in the polls. So while they'll be on the ballot, they are not going to be at the presidential debate. And you know, if you talk to some of their supporters, you talk to some people in America, they will say that that's unfair, that since they're going to be on the ballot, they should be at the debate. So we have in our country a debate over the debates, if you will, because they won't be there. Norms to their own political thinking. There's not as much willingness to consider the other side, and I think that can be dangerous. So, you know, if you're a conservative, you can follow conservative people on Twitter, you can follow conservative blogs, you can watch conservative television, and all of your views are just regurgitated back to yourself. And I think, you know, a show that I worked on, Meet the Press, we tried every week to make sure we had both sides represented, that we took the opposite, you know, we'd say, how do you prepare for the show? Well, you learn as much about your guests that you're interviewing, you take that other side all the time, you play that devil's advocate. And so we would do that equal opportunity, Democrat and Republican, or independent, and try to put all those different views out there. But what I think is dangerous is when people don't want to consider the other side of the story. So, thanks for the question.
One final question.
Yes, one last question.
I thought I wanted to give it to the lady.
I have one. Okay, between Trump and Clinton.
Yes.
Do you think which one is much more better for the developing countries like Cambodia?
Well, you know, going back to Trump is the wild card here, and Hillary Clinton is going to have sort of the exact policies of the Obama administration. So she's a known quantity.
You won't answer it. Can we have one question, final question from the girl? Come on. Please. Come to the girl. I have a question.
Okay. I'm democratic, okay?
Yes, I just want to know about the campaign in the US. What is the problem or challenge during the campaign between Trump and Clinton?
What is the what?
What is the challenge or the problems during the campaign?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have some. How do you handle it?